Society is in a downward spiral, and it's not going to get better anytime soon. In fact, we can more or less expect things to get worse before they will get better. Of course, while Gen Z isn't responsible for all the problems that we have in the world today, they are playing a major part of it as they continue to get absolutely worse. Their behavior is atrocious. They're extremely lazy. They're very narcissistic. They think that the world owes them something. They basically say the boomers stole our future, so we need to steal it back. I often refer to them as the sleeping and farting generation because they all they really ever do now is sleep, eat, drink, get drunk, smoke weed, vape, play games, fart, fart really loud wet farts, play with themselves, and then do it all again the next day. This is Gen Z, the sleeping and farting generation. I've already said it that they are a generation of future thieves and squatters. Okay? Like 10 years from now, Gen Z will just be stealing and squatting. Because right now they are lost children or lost young people, young adults, but they already look like they're in their 40s or 50s. In 10 years, those of them that have made it past into 30, because many won't, will be a group of destitute, desperate people rapidly heading towards old age. And old age for a Gen Zer is really 45 to 50, because middle age for a Gen Zer is at maximum 25. It's a bad situation. Now they are making the mainstream media every single day almost. It seems like almost every day there is a new article about Gen Z, or they're appearing on every news station as people are freaking out about the things that they are doing. We are 100% in a downward spiral when it comes to this group of very bad muffins that should never have made it out of the oven, if you get what I mean. There was a comment on one of my videos from the Stormtrooper, and he says, you know, on the video, we are witnessing the fall of society. He says, you adopted the boomer mindset that everything is the latest generation's fault, and they brought it onto themselves when the previous generations and the world made them who they are. It's not their fault, it's society's fault. You talk about how bad society treats men, yet you ignore how bad society has treated Gen Z. Hypocritical, don't you think? They don't want to play this rig game, and I don't blame them. Why work when you will when you will own nothing and be miserable, living paycheck to paycheck, not having a family, a house, or anything nice? Why do why do for society when everyone hates you, badmouths you, and says that you are worthless? Why try to fix a system that is so heavily rigged against you that the only winning strategy is to not play the game to begin with? It's not their responsibility to fix others people's mess. And since all the previous generations don't want to take accountability for their own actions, why should Gen Z? They will not die for this rotten soy society. They're the soy boys and soy girls. Well, they're the soy boys and girls for whatever. Anyway, he goes on to say they won't fix this broken system. They won't play this rigged game. They will not become a slave. And I don't blame them one bit. Let it rot and crumble. So this is one of their enablers. And I responded by saying, committing crimes, blaming your parents for everything, blaming society, whining about everything won't get them anywhere. Everyone knows that what's happening is not Gen Z's fault, but they are only making the situation worse. Instead of being resourceful and trying to figure out what they can do in the face of hard times, they've turned to degeneracy, grand larceny, and drugs while claiming to be victims. No one is expecting them to fix anything. But how about they don't make things worse? How about no stealing? How about no territory takeovers? How about no shaming, attacking, or disrespecting their elders? How about simply quitting your job if you don't want to work versus not showing up at all until you're fired? How about not using hard times and being dealt an unfair hand of cards as a reason to behave badly? How about taking some personal responsibility? And that was my response, and that's all I'm talking about. That's all that I mean. But of course, Gen Z is not going to stop. And now Gen Z, they again every single day it's getting absolutely worse. There's a video from Fox News, and it basically illustrates even more of Gen Z's problems. So we have this group of people called NEETs, and it's very popular in Japan. It means not in education, employment, or training. And more Gen Zers are entering into this lifestyle at the farthest end of the spectrum. We have groups known in Japan as hikikomoris, who basically almost never leave their homes and become shut-in losers. But we'll go ahead and jump into the video.
Have you ever heard of a NEET? It's the acronym that stands for Not in Employment, Education, or Training. And apparently more and more Gen Zers are choosing to become one. Fox 5's Linda Schmidt breaks it all down.
Well, it seems there is a group of people in their 20s around the world who are choosing to do nothing. And this group even has its own acronym, NEET, N-E-E-T. And what that stands for is not interested in education, employment, or training.
It's a motivational issue.
But career coach Barry Drexler says it is a small group of people who are choosing not to work, get an education, or learn a trade. He does not believe a recent study claiming that it includes about a quarter of the 20-somethings around the world.
No, it is a thing. It's a fringe issue, though. It's not the bulk of the population.
I don't think it's a real thing.
There is even a debate among experts as to whether NEET even exists.
It's hard to take an average from economies across the globe and draw any conclusions, because what might be representative for the United States could be very different from less developed country, different economies around the world.
Human resources expert Gregory Giangrande says the pandemic dramatically changed how people think about work, but most people are still working.
There has been this explosion of gig workers, so people who are actually the younger generation who are working for themselves. Many of them are making money off the books. So when they're not motivated to say that they're employed or in training, because then they'd have to report that income.
And for the small fringe group not interested in working or say they cannot find work,
Unless their parents are supporting them and will continue to support them, they can't sustain a life of not making any money.
Linda Schmidt, Fox 5 News.
Now, I want to point this out. This joker says that, oh, well, Gen Z is doing gig economy work, and they don't want it. They're just not admitting that they're doing gig economy work, because if they admitted that they're doing gig economy work, then they would have to pay taxes. Let's just make this very clear. If you work for Uber, they report your earnings to the IRS. If you work for DoorDash or Amazon Flex or whatever program is out there, they report your earnings to the IRS. Unless you're being paid under the table, you are being reported to the IRS. If you get a donation or you receive any money on any platform now, like Cash App or PayPal or any of these things, okay, Venmo, for $600 or more, the IRS now wants to know about it. It used to be like a threshold of, I think it was like 10 to 20,000. Now it's $600. So this notion that, oh, they're it's not that they're unemployed, they're just doing work that they're not reporting. Guys, how stupid is that? How absolutely stupid is that? Okay? That is such hardcore copium. So there are studies going on right now which suggest that 25% of all Gen Zers around the world are not working so they're not in education. They're not in education, employment, or training. So they basically have dropped out of society. They're living at home, playing video games, sleeping and farting, and doing absolutely nothing with their lives. We know that in the US, over 30 million men have already dropped out of the workforce. There is no reason to believe that Gen Zers are dropping out as well. 400 out of 1,000 employers surveyed by a Career Builder admitted that back in 2022 that they don't hire Gen Zers at all. That was 40%. 40% of all employers admitted that they don't hire Gen Z. That was 2 years ago. So how do you think it looks now? All right. And the whole 9 to 5 thing doesn't work for Gen Z. So they cannot prove that this group of people are working. All right. Do you hear this joker? Okay. So it's not that the report is necessarily wrong, but it's wrong. The Gen Zers, they're probably working. They're just doing gig economy work, and they're not telling the truth. They're so that they don't pay taxes on it. How stupid is that response? How stupid, guys. 25% of Gen Zers around the world have dropped out of the workforce entirely. They've dropped out of the workforce. They've dropped out of school. They're not in education. They're not in employment. They're not in training. They're doing nothing. They're sleeping, farting, chilling, and that's it. They're the sleep and fart generation. What do you guys think regarding this? I want to know your thoughts. Let's talk about this in the comments. Like the video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you like the video, share the video. And just remember that all roads lead to MWA, men walking away, and cheers.